and we're still going. So today we're going to talk about this big project that our unit's been working on, which is in the basement here, and it's UC Davis's online giving platform. And so we'll talk about all sorts of stuff with it, the project details. My job was the design mainly. We'll talk about how I did that, and then John and Scott will talk about development, talk about our launch situation, and then we'll go through a little demo of it. And then you guys will be out of here. So Scott, you want to talk about the project details real quick?
Yeah, we can talk a little about what it does. Just give a quick demo.
Yeah, like what the goals were, and you want me to jump into it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically we got...
First off, high fives, everyone.
We got pulled into the project sort of sideways because we started to do a more admin-heavy, non-public facing website. But luckily, we found out partway through that the server that the old Give to UC Davis website is on is some old Windows 2003 machine that can't be upgraded and is not PCI payroll compliant.
Cold Fusion.
Was it? I think it was in .NET.
Oh, well, maybe it was in Classic ASP.
Classic ASP. So it was time to write a new online giving portal for UC Davis, and so we decided to redo the whole thing, try to do it as nice as possible. And basically, the big requirements were that it was done by the time the audit happened on campus, which finished, I think, a few days ago or something like that. So we launched just in time. And SSL security, there's a lot of payroll compliance that comes along with it. I don't know if any of you guys are running any sites to take credit cards, but there's some things you have to pay attention to. A lot of it is just where your data is going and where your keys are stored and where, all that kind of stuff, all the monitoring and logging you're doing. So we ended up with this website. Can you go to the test one? I don't know if you have
My test one?
To give test?
Probably not.
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah, that one.
Let's see if this works.
Let's see if it works. If not, it's okay.
There you go.
Okay. So this is what we ended up with, and we'll talk a little bit more about it, what we did. But basically, it's a website you can search and go around and look up all the different funds on campus. And then if you hit Give Now, we have a sort of custom payment portal. So just, hit Next, I guess. And the only thing sort of interesting here is that usually what you'll see on a lot of these websites is once you put in your info and you go to the payment page, we do what's called like a redirect. Like everything with TouchNet uses a redirect. TouchNet is the main credit card processor for campus. So we decided to do our own hosted version.
This
Cool.
is the test version.
Yeah, well, so we'll get into the details later. So when did the project start?
So the first code, I think, was committed in July.
Okay.
So the first code was committed in July, and it was a team of more or less the three of us developing. Cal was doing the design, and we have another developer who helps a lot with the data backend stuff. So we're actually part of this project we won't talk about because it's not very web designy, but it's we're moving money into and around KFS because money comes into campus and we have to move it and distribute it to the right funds. And then there's a lot of storing the data in this system of record that campus keeps so that they know all the mail you guys get sent to asking you to donate, they know who to send it to, and they know whether to bother you, how much you've given this year versus last year, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of data components to it too.
Sweet.
Something I'll inject is that we were sort of given a go do it requirements doc. I mean, that was it. They were just, we don't have time to go back and forth with the client. They were just like, we trust that you guys are going to do really good, high quality, beautiful work. And so they very much just said, okay, we have to get this done as fast as possible. Go do it.
Yeah, basically she said she wanted something that she could have on her iPad at meetings and be proud of it. Basically,
Sure.
She's like, I want to be able to go to conferences and brag about our website. And that was really the main thing.
Cool. Sweet. Thanks, Scott. So we'll switch gears into the design of it, which is what I was doing and kind of my process through it. But definitely, like, to build off what John was saying, traditionally, when I'm doing a site for a client, there's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of, we want this, and we like these styles, and make it look like this website. But on this one, it was honestly like a clean slate. it was the strangest project, and also because I didn't have to dance around a heavy CMS like Plone or Drupal or something like that. I built it almost all from scratch. I didn't have any styles coming in from a CMS, right, that would hinder you. So we were super flexible. So it was really eye-opening and fun because we could basically do whatever we wanted. And it continued like that even throughout the mocks. They liked everything they saw, and we were able to make something really cool, I think. So like most projects, it all started with research. And I think what's interesting is that Berkeley was doing the same type of thing as us. They were redoing their giving platform, and they finished before us, but they started probably way before us, right? And so as we were going through ours, we were able to see, we had like a glimpse into how they were doing it. I remember some screenshots of they were really mobile focused and doing some stuff like that. And so they launched, I don't know how long ago, but it was nice to get that kind of feel for another. It was almost like competition, right? They were launching theirs, and we could compete right with them. And but it's okay, like it's got this nice call to action here. But we kind of went for something different. And I remember when I first started working on this project, Scott was like, I think I really like Kickstarter, and I think they do donations really well. And so we should try and follow something like what they do. And it's a hip company. They're really into the design world. So we really came off of this style, right, with this nice video that's really immersive, and then kind of like a featured funds. And so that kind of got our ideas flowing with how we wanted it to look. And at the same time, UCLA, I think, redid theirs, and theirs is pretty intense. It's got a lot of stuff going on. There's like, you just look at it, right? There's numbers moving, which I'm guessing is how full the fund is. And it looked like a huge project. So I don't want to be mean to UCLA, but I know what I didn't want to get to, which something that was just a little too complicated.
To contrast, go to their pay page.
Is that just
on the top? There you go. We really like their pay.
Right.
Their pay process. Yeah. So just continue as a guest.
Yeah. Super simple, really nice, really focused, right? There's no sidebar here that's, asking for other things or maybe a link to you can get away from this. It's kind of just do this. And then, so the other thing is what the site was. And so this is what it used to be before we launched, or it still is.
It still is. This is the informational version.
Right.
The actual checkout process was.
Right. So it's kind of like an interesting project because we didn't entirely consume this and replace it. This still lives, and there's still a lot of content on here that's being produced. But there's some kind of like, I don't know, symbiotic relationship between our two sites that's kind of fuzzy.
There used to be a TouchNet portion after this that we have wholesale gotten rid of. So.
Yeah. Okay. So research, boom. So then we got right into page design and mockups, and so there's basically five different types of pages, right? A landing page, which is that big one in the first page, obviously. An area page, which is basically like different topics you can choose from, right? And then there's an area/fund, and these are our content pages. This is like where you donate. It's giving you the details on the fund, and that to me was the most important page because that's probably what people are going to see the most. And then there's payment, and there's a for next to it because there's 4 different steps through it, which we'll get into. And then there's like a search results page. And that's basically it. I can't think of any more. So it kind of seemed like a big project, but from a design point of view, it wasn't that big, right? There's just these 4 things we need to nail, and then we're good. So then we can get right into the mockups. And so those of you that know me, I really enjoy Sketch. And so, is that working? Nope. There it is. So this was actually really nice because it was back when Trish was here, and we were able to work together on this. Like, she did some of the payment pages, and we really collaborated on this. But as you can see, it's different now on the browser, right? But this is our landing page. I'm not sure why. There we go. Give now, here's will you change. Same type of idea here. Featured funds, but most of it is kind of in flux still. And so traditionally when I'm designing, I think I spend a lot more time in the browser, right? So I'll design something pretty quickly in Sketch, and then most all of it will be done in the browser. And so you can see some area page, and you can search within the area. And then there's the fund page. So these are those 2 pages I was talking about, which are the content pages. You can see they're different because I was testing different things. A nice banner that whatever the fund or the area would give us an image for. So we just chose an honor for this. And then a really big call to action here. And then some other, summary text of that, some information, some tags maybe, the fund purpose and the fund type. So there's a couple different things that we're populating there. And then we can get down, this is the search results. Right, so we're showing, this is really similar to the Kickstarter, right? I think it is. Anyway, let's not waste time there. Need to do that move. Right, so we give this nice image. We were gonna carry these tags over and try and build like a color-coded system. Like if it's, I don't know, art, that'd be purple. So when you see the purple dot, that means it's related to art. All sorts of stuff like that that you do in mockups, and then when you want to develop it, it kind of falls apart. Anyway, so the next big thing was the payment confirmation. And this was actually really cool because I've never done anything like this. Most of my websites that I do are just departments and centers that aren't really taking money, or especially not on this level. So it was really kind of interesting to get into the psychology behind giving money and buying things. Or donating things. So this first thing you see here is the confirmation. So this is, all this is what Trish did, which is actually cool. But this is what you see after you've donated your money, right? So you give $1,000. Congratulations, we're pulling in some stuff that hasn't even been filled in here, but you can share it on Twitter and Facebook. I don't know how many of the people who are donating are going to do that, but I think it was requested, right? It was requested. They wanted it, so we did it. So this, one of the things I was really interested in is creating like a step, some kind of guide of where you are in this process. Because I know one of the big things with these forms is that they can get really long, and if you don't provide some kind of recognition of where you are, it can really slow things down. You can really get a lot of bounce. And so at the top here, I said, okay, so the first thing you're gonna do is your gift, and then you're gonna fill out something about you, and then you're gonna pay. And so I think that really helps to guide them along and keep them in the process. And so is the contrast like really, really white, it looks like. You can't see as well as here, whatever. So you choose, how much you want to give, or another amount, how often, is this gift in honor of somebody or no? Is this gift joint matching? And then over to the about you, it's basically first name, contact information. And then this really, is this still in? It's still in. Okay, cool. We'll show this when it's live. It's this kind of fancy script that somebody found online, probably Scott. And as you type in your credit card number, this graphic of the card will flip around and say Visa, and it'll have your numbers on it and be kind of cool like that. And then some other data that we're populating here, like your contact info, and then you make your gift. And so that's basically where we ended on the mock-up, at least for me. And then from there, let's go back to, we can look at what the actual site looks like. So you can see we went with this nice big movie background, which is really a cool story. We just went on Vimeo or somehow, and we search UC Davis, and we find this time lapse is what it's called. I think there's a hyperlapse or something fancy for it. But anyway, we emailed this guy, and we're like, hey, we want to use your video, and he said sure, and here we are. He's a student. He's a student, yeah. So even cooler. And so we are continuing with this big Give Now button, right? And this gives directly to the campaign or the annual fund. And then you can search and, search for something else, like search for, let's just type in rugby, just because that's what we want to give to. Has anyone been on this site since it was redone? Has anyone given money? Right. So you can search and you can, we're close to that mock-up, right? But things never really end up that similar, at least when I'm doing it. But they're close, right? We wanted pictures to be a big thing here, right? Because on the old site, there was, let's see, can we still give through the old way?
No, and there was no search. It was a big drop down.
No search, just a big drop down list of all the different funds. No images for your fund. It was maybe a paragraph, probably this big, describing the fund, maybe, and that's it, right? And so from there, just even on the search, we're getting more, right? We're getting an image, it's highlighting the terms you searched for. It's saying your search returned 2 results. And then once we get into the actual fund, you can see we've done a couple of things different, right? We put the title up here and down, and then a little summary or description text right here, and then this nice big image, and then we moved the button down here, and that was kind of a big deal. And so on this image, we felt that there's too many call to actions here, right? There's a button right here and there's a button right here, and they do the same thing. So I don't want to draw that attention away. We want to just have one, and we want it to be almost, no matter where you're on the page, we want that to be there, right? But it's tricky because some funds might have a lot of text and you have to scroll, and some might not. And so we found that if you had a button right here in the middle, as soon as you scroll just a little bit, it's gone, and then you have another one here. But for more than half of the page, you're seeing 2 buttons that do the exact same thing. And so what we decided to do is kind of simplify the main header, put it down here on the left, and throw in this button right here. And so the other stuff that's all the same: information, categories, fund purpose, fund type, similar funds. And what's funny is that all of these images, if you don't have a default image, it will pull from your area, which is like the level above your fund. So this is sports clubs, I'm guessing, right? And so all the sports clubs, if they didn't have an image, they would pull this one. And so I used to play rugby, so I emailed the person who was in charge of this, and I said, hey, can we use this photo instead? And they agreed, which is pretty cool. And so I guess you really can't see the borders here, huh? No. There's supposed to be a border right here. Anyway, you guys can see when you wanted to give money to rugby. Information and everything is split up like that. We have the different categories, right? And it's the same search view, and it's just showing everything that's tagged with student, right? And so if we go back to, so the only other type of page really is the area page, which I was talking about. And this is kind of a basic page. A lot needs to be fixed, or I think can be fixed here. But it's just a list of all the different areas and programs at UC Davis. It's kind of like the top level list. You dive into one of these areas like this, and then now we're in an area page. And it looks a lot like a fund page, right? But it's an area page. And the tricky thing here is that this is where it can get really convoluted, is that some areas have default funds to donate to, but we needed to display areas differently than funds, because within an area, you can still find funds within it, right? So what we decided to do is just throw a search bar in here that says search for athletics. So I don't know if this is going to work, actually. Can't find anything. Can't donate to football. Oh yeah, I need to do like soccer or something.
I'm not sure.
Anyway, anyone do this? Anyone play intercollegiate athletics? Anyway, oh, here's one. Associated funds, right? Click on that. And so that's area funds, or area views, area fund views, and then the actual fund. So that's kind of like how we navigated that tricky space of areas. You have to be able to donate to an area, but also a fund, right? If an area chooses a fund. And some areas don't have funds.
We're trying to help the donor who says, I want to donate to the College of Engineering, but I don't know what to. So if they go to the College of Engineering's just page there's a button that just says give.
Right.
And the person who manages and administrates that page can decide where that button goes. So.
Cool. Okay, so then let's quickly go through the home page. We talked about this first banner. This is just some kind of copy that we were given. And then we have our tags here. Some nice icons I didn't do.
We actually pulled from the UCLA site too. It was one of the big
That's right.
Pulled from their site. They did a really good job of that.
They did. They have these nice icons on. Hopefully I can get to it. Doing that. Maybe not. Nope.
I really don't want you to get out there.
Good too. It's a fairly different domain.
I think that's
So yeah, they have these nice kind of what matters most to you. So we want to kind of, you know, grab that same kind of aspect, which I think we did. Maybe a little simpler, a little more personal icons, I think. Personable, right? Everybody agree? Yeah, of course. So then we have this nice, I didn't make them, no. Those are pretty, I grabbed them offline. So we have this nice feature band. You know, this can change, even though it's hard-coded right now. I don't know when it ever is going to change, probably never. But student, you know, they gave us the copy for this and then another button to go to a certain fund, or this is just search tags for students. Yeah. And then we're pulling 3 random funds here. So these are completely random. And that's the only way it would have worked, right? Because if it was not random, then there would have just been a fight about whose fund gets to be here and how long. So we decided to make it random. And then the footer, just basic stuff. And then so the last big thing really is the payment.
So while you're on this page, the images, if you click in, you get the same image, just a lot bigger. And so what we do is you upload this image, and Cal basically said, everyone needs an image with these exact dimensions. I don't know if they were 1200 by something. And then we take that and we chop them into medium and small, and we store all 3 versions up on our poster. And that way we can display the small ones in the bottom and the big ones on the top without making it download long.
Right, and that's a really tricky thing to do because you need them to get, you need the people that are managing these and giving us photos, they need to be photos that are somewhat abstract and look good, big and cropped, but also look good as this little cutout here, right? So that's been a challenge that we've kind of overcome. Like we had one what was it? I can't remember what it was.
School education.
Education?
Yeah.
So somebody had a education. An image that looked really good. Oh, no, it was like a girl teaching.
Yeah, it was someone teaching.
Anyway, it looked really good in the little thumbnail, but once it was zoomed out, her head was cut off. So it's just somebody's hand like pointing at a crowd of kids. So they complained about that, and which is tricky because if we change how it looks for them, it's going to change how it looks for everybody, right? So what we did is basically I just moved the padding up a little bit so it cropped a little more from the bottom, and they might have changed it. I don't know. But anyway, that was like one of the hardships.
Get another photo.
Yeah, get another photo, right? Cool. So let's dive really quickly into the where we ended up for the payment stuff, and it's basically the same. So you can see here at the very top, it's kind of like, okay, this is the title, and this is basically the title of the page. So, you know, choose what your gift details are going to be, and then we have, geez, it is really bright there. I wonder why. Anyway, so your gift, about you, payment info. So same type of thing. How much will you give? Except we didn't go with the predetermined boxes of like, what was it, like 25, 50, 100. And I can't remember, they didn't want that.
I think we just didn't get around to it.
We just didn't get around to it.
It's so cool. I don't know whether it's better or worse.
Right. That happened a lot for us. We didn't know what was better or worse.
There's probably a hefty amount of psychology behind that.
Totally.
If you know, what options you present is going to really drive people's behavior.
And so, yeah, there was some thought that went into like the $100 anchoring value. And we actually had the giving folks who were like, hey, we want you to drop that value down to 50 to anchor. I was like, no, we'll leave that in. And it's turned out to be the most given amount. So,
you know, someone actually told us that was really cool. Is this guy used to work for Hotwire.com, and what they would do was they would do something like this. They would default you $100, but if you came in on an iPad, $150.
Oh, nice.
So it turns out, yeah, it might be fun to do.
Look up your IP address, index it against your zip code.
Yeah.
Oh, you're coming in from the Bay Area.
So there are airlines that do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
You're using an Apple
Oh, they'll start you
You get
higher.
higher fares.
They'll start you with
they used to, I don't know if they do this anymore, but they used to do returns. So if you would check the price and then go in and come back and check the price again, it would have increased a little bit. The idea of like, oh God,
That's funny. Cool. So yeah, there's a ton of psychology behind all this stuff that we probably could have spent more time worrying about. How often will you give? Same type of thing, in honor of, and then a little field drops down. You know, everyone make their gifts in honor of me. Although this, I don't think this really does anything, right?
side to that? Did you guys build in A/B testing on this?
No, we didn't.
So the idea has been thrown around.
Yeah.
And I think as soon as we started getting the numbers of how many people actually donate and give to the site, it sort of was like, it was gonna be very difficult to get statistical number, like enough people to actually A/B test against.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, we're hoping, I mean, I don't know about us, but like they're hoping that, expecting that credit card donations are gonna become a bigger part of all the money brought in. But right now, it's a pretty small portion, it turns out. Turns out one check from a real donor can wipe out the entire year's worth of online donations. So, yeah, we started architecting the site to be able to do a lot of cash increase stuff, and they gave us their thing saying, oh, in January we get like 4 a day. But I still would like to do it. I think that'd be really cool.
So this is, so if you notice at the very top, we're pulling some more infos, right? So before it was your gift details. Now it's saying you're donated whatever you asked for, $100 to, you know, this fund in honor of this person. And then this changed, you know, you passed this test. Now you're on the About You section. And you're filling in all this. Is this a joint gift? Sure. Actually, no, it's going to take more time. And the final step is your payment details. And Scott's credit card is this. And you can see this card. You see this card? Yeah.
So it's grayed out because
Ah.
Oh, wait.
bad credit card.
so go 4 and then 1s.
Yeah.
1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Knows it's a Visa.
Shit, crazy.
So flips over.
Yeah.
Nice.
It has your name there, by the way, if you go back to the other side.
Is it going to go if I press tab? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So, and then the same thing as the design we were looking at before, right? Just pulling in the info, like verifying that all this stuff is correct. And what's going to happen?
That credit card will not work because
Yeah,
you have a
probably
production
not
website.
worth
So this is going to go to CyberSource and it's going to come back and say your credit card is wrong.
it.
Cool.
And now I have a transaction there that failed.
Sweet. Okay. Anyone
Share
have
that in a minute here.
questions on the design side of this? Yeah,
Yeah,
Steve.
I assume mobile was part of the goal, so
Uh,
tell us
why-
about it.
Yeah, let's go mobile. Let's go. Let's do it right now. So yeah, definitely. I was using. Let's get into Sublime Text. Do.
While he's loading that up, the other argument we had with the giving folks was how long to make that form, because they wanted us to ask, what's your association with UCD? You know, what is, you know, when did you graduate? When did they wanted a big giant form? And we're like, no, we, as little information as possible.
Your field is an opportunity to fail.
Exactly. So there's a lot of back and forth there as well.
Cool. So if any of you guys remember the, I don't know, episode, whatever, of this talk where Trish was talking about the breakpoints in SAS, this, you actually don't even have to install anything. You can just do it in SAS. So that's what I did with Give. This is just a side note for you guys interested. I created quite a few breakpoints, but I'm also still using custom responsive like areas for those weird things that at, I don't know, 1156 pixels fly out for some reason, right? But so if we go to here, and so like my rule of thumb with this stuff is basically, this is how I do responsive design, is I shrink this and I say, okay, stuff's starting to collapse, so let's move something right here, right, into this type of model. And then actually what I'm working on right now is making this video just disappear entirely if you're on an iPhone, and just be a different, like be a background image of something. And you can see this has collapsed from what, 1:6 to 2:3, and then it's gonna go 3:2, and then it's gonna go 1:1. No, it's not. So at this point, we're past. What I should do here is just set a minimum width, because no one's ever gonna see it this resolution, but it's still a smart thing to do. So if we keep scrolling down, we're using Bootstrap, right? So these things are just call MD4s, right? So they're pulling in Bootstrap's responsive stuff. So which I think is at like 700. No, it's at 9. It looks like it's at 1,000. They go to 100%, which could probably be tuned up. the footer. I'm actually scared to see what happens here because I don't entirely know. So that needs to be a little tuned up. And then that whole left section just disappears. But we could actually just probably move it to the top and make it 100%. That'd be nice. Maybe I'll do that. And if we go to any other page has that right-hand sidebar besides this, this is just going to fill down to 1%, 2%, or not even. That must be a Bootstrap thing because I didn't do that. It's not bad. So it's hard to see that there's a divider here between the right and the left, but there is this little gray bar. And so all this stuff will collapse down at 700, 750 probably. So then it just collapsed. And so this can probably be centered, but that's basically the extent of the responsive design I've worked on. It's basically going from 50% to 100%. Is the kind of theory that I take behind it. And does that answer your question, Steve?
Yeah, one of the things I was wondering about was the video set.
The video.
HTML5.
Great question. Great question. So initially, what is it? Vid.js, Scott? Do you remember?
Yeah, JD.
Um,
That's on the website. That's what it's called.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is it. Is this with the big? No.
That was not it.
Oh, this one, the vodka bears. Yes. So initially we found this and grabbed it and used this. It's just a super easy, drop it in and then, or I guess we can still look at it because it's on live. Yeah, this is actually what's running on live. So if I,
It's a little transition library for browsers that may not support the video tag.
There's a better way that I'll talk about.
Yeah. There's certainly some.
so if we look at this, I have this div set up and there's all sorts of stuff on it, this data vid options. And so that's what the plugin's looking for. And so when it finds that, it pumps out, basically it pumps out this div, which is being styled, you know, as the width is changing, those values are changing, like the width and the height. And then inside this is just a video, HTML5 video. And then so I give it a .mp4, a .webm, and a .m4v, not even, and then a backup image, and it does the rest.
So is that the load, the backup image first, and then it goes to the
Right. Yeah, and so Scott wanted it to become an actual get rid of the JavaScript, which I'm working on right now and getting close. And so in that, if we look at the home page, here's that same V landing. And then so instead of the JavaScript creating a wrapper, I just make my own wrapper. And then I just throw in this video tag. And then, you know, mute it because there's some audio from the Vimeo. And then here's the image to show an image as a poster and then the source. And so I think WebM is for Firefox only. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah.
So what was the emphasis that the IDE would be or whatever before, just that
Easy.
hadn't done?
Like I wouldn't have to look into it.
Okay.
And it's becoming super popular. Like Kickstarter has theirs, and a bunch of other websites are using these fancy video backgrounds. And so
I guess what I'm asking, what are they doing that you couldn't just do with HTML5?
honestly, nothing.
Nothing. We didn't. I think basically we thought, oh, that was cool. Google background video was the first thing. And
Right.
then once we looked at it, we were
If I
like,
remember, it was just some random Wednesday where it was just him and me in the office.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I want to put a video. You just add the slider and like,
Right.
go back to work. I love the thing I'm doing right now.
Right.
So then we were like, oh, look at the video. Awesome.
Right.
And never came back to it.
here, can you go to that link in the sent you?
So if you'd started from scratch now, you'd probably just do HTML5.
Totally.
Exactly.
And it will be. We're moving to that.
Yeah, so this is what we're going to pretty much. I pulled up the HTML5 version here. It looks pretty similar to what we're already doing, right? With the poster and everything and the auto load controls. So what you see is this: you have the 3 source options. But what's cool is basically it's just going to go down and try one source after another. And then, so for an old browser, this is a Mac, so we can't. But if you were to open it on Internet Explorer 8, it's going to be fun. Anything Internet Explorer 9 or later, and then like any Firefox and Chrome after like 4. And so it's pretty well supported for a long time. But it'll go down each of those sources. And what's nice is Internet Explorer will see this, and it won't know what the video tag is because it's never seen that before. And it won't know what the source tag is, and it'll jump right to the image. So it will just display the image statically for you, which is a really nice fallback. And what's cool is if you wanted to, since it's just going down the list, before image, after source, you could put like a flash, just an object tag or whatever, flash in there, if you wanted a flash fallback. If you just really wanted it on Internet Explorer 8 for some reason.
Another question kind of on the browser situation. So when you move to mobile device, right? Obviously, you don't want to have that much pull, data-wise on the video. So is that what you guys move from now? Or just gonna cut out video?
Yeah.
Bypass it, or
So
what's the technology?
I need to talk to you about that actually.
Yeah, we were just actually talking about this morning. As a matter of fact, I know we want to cut it out for anything mobile. And so the question is, do we want to push out a different version of the page when we see that someone has the small viewport? Or do we want to, in CSS or JavaScript, hide that and put it in when we download it?
Yeah,
So that-
if you
yeah.
hide it in CSS, isn't it still down?
That's my question. Does anybody know that? Like, if I do display none on that video, is it still being downloaded?
We'll find out.
We'll find out.
I'm pretty sure it is. I mean, one of the reasons I'm drilling you guys on this is we're looking to do the same thing. So, if we're not opposed to the redesign right now, this is a part of the video.
From the network side of things, it does stream. So,
Yeah.
It starts loading up and playing the video as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I guess it depends on the size of the video. So,
Yeah.
It's
What are we at?
smaller.
20 megs? It's pretty big, the whole video. Obviously, on the download it, I'll just start playing, but
They call that mobile unfriendly.
I know.
depends on if you're on Wi-Fi.
well, I mean, the home site's in a unique position because we still have 7,000 IE7 users.
Yeah.
Right, per month. It's crazy. But we're trying to figure out a way to do a lot of things that you guys are doing here, but make sure that it's 1,000 content a day.
You're using all my data.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are 38.
Gigs and gigs, so.
Basically 40 megabytes.
Well, it will just use 2% of somebody's whole month.
Okay.
Okay.
So we need to
So
figure out a
we're
different
gonna
way.
put out a new version of the page, which is fine. Actually,
No.
it's pretty easy. Or we just don't insert it in.
Is there CSS that I can do to make it not?
I've been looking for that for years.
Yeah.
No, images don't get downloaded when display is none.
Yeah, but I want to do something in CSS and not change the HTML.
Yeah, I think they get everything.
It's just a style. It's not. That's nothing.
That brings me another question. You guys did the sizing for the images. Are you loading? You're not doing differential loading for like mobile.
But
There is a lot of mobile optimization that can be done still. I feel like there always is.
Yeah, we would definitely like to hear as well. Like it's still pretty small. Like our desktop. Most people get desktop. Like the 90% of the gifts come from desktop. But we do get a lot of people who's coming to the page on mobile just to explore what's there, not so much the target viewing audience, but we would like to make it more mobile friendly.
One thing I would suggest is using SVG as much as you can.
Yeah.
Like all of these icons are in SVG, the logo's in SVG, the search bar, like this little guy's in SVG.
You guys do backup for SVG?
I don't.
Yeah.
Probably should.
So are you using SVG sprites, or are you using those as 6 individual SVGs?
So some of them, there's a couple different things that I'm using with SVG. Some of them are just the actual embedded like code of the SVG. Some of them are being tagged like the images, like, it's like image source and then .svg, and some of them, I'm not using any sprites though.
There's an excellent Grunt plugin for doing SVG sprites that will generate the fallback PNGs from your SVGs.
Oh, that's sweet.
You put your SVGs into a folder, and it produces as many SVG sizes as you want, or an SVG sprite that's combined the appropriate Sass or CSS, and then as many different sizes of PNG fallback as necessary.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
the CSS all goes in. It's the Danish version of the BBC. It's DR sprites or something like that. Grunt DR sprites.
Okay, cool. We'll look for that.
Does it also do the PNG fallback?
Yeah, because I mean, it's only support, SVGs are supported back to 9. It's not that.
I don't know, but I love them.
Yeah.
I use them as much as I can. I think mainly because of like Retina display just pisses me off when something's blurry.
Oh, it looks 1,000 times better.
Yeah.
We used like a JavaScript plugin that did the SVG thing for one of the sites where we could go as far as making sprites or anything like that.
Cool.
The
So
sprites are nice because it reduces the number of trips.
yeah,
And with that, during the development process, you just drop in another SVG into that folder.
Yeah.
And it will just append it to the end of the
Oh,
sprite, index you've got. It's
What's about it?
It also depends what size images are. I mean, for those icons, if they're only 20 pixels wide and they're already like 5K, it's 6K to double the size. You might as well just throw the double size in there and give it the font size.
Yeah.
And then you're not loading anything, right?
Yeah, we figured that for a while, but I was trying to build it.
It depends. Yeah, usually I think so. If it's a big image, then I'll do some sort of bio replacement.
cool. So any lingering questions on the design, and then Scott and John can jump in on some development stuff. Cool, let's do it. You want your computer? You want my computer?
What's your paragraph on?
Proxima Nova, but don't tell anyone that needs it to be Futura. Yeah, it's paragraph. This is Proxima Nova, and then this is the Hand of Sean, which I think came with the whole one UC Davis branding package. Yeah, and I think that's it. Yeah, just Proxima Nova everywhere. Cool. All right, let's do this transition. See if we don't blow everything up.
Save me full notes. I'm not going to talk about it, but I will general behind charts just to show them. Are you guys
I don't think we're using any HTML5.
No. And I think another big place that we're not doing things is a lot of the like visibility, like the ARIA and the roles and purpose and a lot of that kind of stuff, all the tags to go in so that somebody with, for example, a screen reader would have a better experience. There's a lot of stuff that we need to do on a page like this.
There's also a balance, though. I mean, you're talking. You said that there's actually pretty low traffic. on the
There
site.
is, yeah. So I mean, it's yeah. At the end of the day, somebody like that's probably just going to pick up the phone and call, or get into contact with an actual person that they can better communicate with, or say that their intentions.
Get pissed off and not contribute their $1 million because their needs were not taken into account.
Or sue us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We get sued a lot.
yeah.
I heard an interesting point brought up is, the screen reader stuff, all that meta stuff is only going to get more important because guess what's a really popular screen reader? Siri. And the more voice command stuff there is, the more those voice programs are going to read through all that stuff.
So yeah, I was not much time. I was going to do just a second about sort of development and some stuff behind the pages, but really not much. Mainly, I wanted to show that we have, of course, like our regular site, and then we have our test site. And so what's kind of cool is we have it set up on the test site. If I go to view source, you'll see stuff like we have all of our CSS files right here. If we go to the bottom, we're going to have a couple of JavaScript files and everything.
There's the vid.
And there's the vid plugin, among all some other stuff. And then, of course, if we go over to production, on production, we always do a couple of things. One is bundle and our styles as much as possible. So where you saw 3 or 4 styles before, now we have one, and it's the minified and bundled version as much as possible. Same thing with the JavaScript, except for the ones that we load from CDNs. Probably could do this slightly better, but I want to get rid of this one anyway. And it's the same thing, minified, concatenated, makes a big difference when you're running YSlow or one of those tools. If we go and look at the actual network load too, which is really important, I think this is missed a lot. if we go and do, if we go and look at some of our content, so let me find some style sheets. Here's our content, for example. If we go and look and see what's actually happening, our request errors. Oh, that's not very good to look at. I'll just read it to you. Some of the important stuff is what the response sends back in terms of the cache and everything. So we set up the public cache for everything that we can. So we set this long, far future, expires in 2016 header on all of our CSS and style sheets, and then we pass a large query string parameter, which is basically just a hash of the actual contents of the file. So every time the contents change, the query string that's passed along will change. So you'll see we ask for styles query string version number. This can just be 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't really matter. But so we don't have to do it manually. We just do a hash of the actual contents. That way, as soon as you put out a new version of your site, even though you tell it don't expire until 2016 or whatever your far future date is, the new version has a different query string, and then the browser goes and grabs that immediately. But whenever they come back to it, they're not going to see anything different for a very, very long time. One place that we've noticed that is on the favicon that's up in the corner of the browser there. Usually, when you have a favicon, if you go to our source, the favicon's just here, just favicon.ico. Problem is, if you change that file, the browser is going to take forever to find it. So I always recommend doing favicon.ico $v equals, because it doesn't matter what you put there, the browser's not going to treat it any different in terms of what file it's looking at, but then it allows you to version that. So as soon as you change it, you just go in your source and you change it to v2 or something, and it will immediately pick that change back up and use it in all the right places. And then as far as actual images, if you just got any image here. That's not what I want to do. If we refresh and look at the images, they're going to have sort of the same thing. We'll grab there's that small, it's below you see there. There we go. What we're doing as most as we can is whenever someone uploads an image to the site that they want to use, we go and push it off to a CDN that's on Microsoft somewhere. And that way, when they actually load it, we're able to do the same thing. It's got a long, crazy name, and then we're able to max age it to a very far time in the future, a year out. So someone doesn't have to reload that image, which becomes pretty big when you're browsing around the site because the images are kind of all the same as you go. So as you go somewhere and go back, you're doing a lot of reloading of the same image. So it makes it pretty useful. And then also the CDN in Azure is pretty easy to work with. I won't go into it, but it's essentially an admin goes, there's an upload button, they upload, and it just shoots it from their browser using the HTML5 file API straight up to that. This is the Azure blog server. Amazon S3 works exactly the same way. Just dump the file up, and they'll store it for you, and then you don't have to worry about those limits quite as much and how many things get downloaded from the same host. So when we go and look at our page speed and everything like that, the cache control, CDN, and bundling and minifying all of our scripts is the most important thing that we run into. Let's see, I talked about the video tag a little bit. I'll take just a minute to say, for like search optimization and stuff, having an XML sitemap is really, really important. You guys probably all know this, but since it's a dynamic site, we just dynamically generate this file, and cache it once a day. It's just a big XML document that has a list of URLs of all the pages on your site. Then what you do, it's especially important if you're a new site, then you go into Google Webmaster Tools. I don't know if you guys have all seen this. It's pretty cool. It will tell you exactly what's going on your website, what Google sees, and probably one of the most important ones is to go in and submit your sitemap. So you want to go in, you want to say add your sitemap, and you want to type the URL to your sitemap. And that's how Google is going to initially figure out what pages you want it to index. It might take a while. It took us probably 4 or 5 days before we launched to really see our search results anywhere. And for a long time, some tools were sort of saying we were still blocked because our robots.txt file, we only opened it up on the first day we launched. Before launch, we told people not to index it. So it took them several days to realize and kind of come back to everything. But everything's going up pretty well. This is a pretty useful tool. Google Webmaster Tools, all you have to do essentially, if you haven't set it up before, is log in, and then they'll tell you put a specific file on your website to prove that you own it. You do that and you tell them to check, and they'll check it, and then they give you access to do all this stuff. You can tell it to crawl a specific URL if you have something new that you want them to tag. You can do some really cool search appearance stuff. So if you have structured data, you might see, like, I'm sure probably like the main homepage, you have your normal one, which will show up, but then you can have your little subcategory site links. So if you have specific things, search is pretty important. If you can bring those, so this kind of tells you, unless you configure, where you can set that all up. The last thing I always wanted to show was we hooked Google Analytics up to this, and there's a couple things you guys can all set up that is pretty nice. One is the conversions, or the goals, where if you have a goal for your site, you can set that up. So we say, if you get to the receipt page, that's a goal. That means you gave money. And then we can track user behavior and what percentage of traffic leads to a goal, where are people dropping off, and all that kind of stuff. So we found that 90% of people come from desktops. We have about 30% Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Internet Explorer. They're all pretty big for the most part. They're a lot more even than I expected on this site.
So what we wanted.
What we wanted. Than what we wanted. I think the user flow is really cool because you can see stuff like a good chunk of people, almost everyone starts on the homepage. We didn't think that'd be the case. We thought people would come linked to a specific fund to give to. So we have these kind of drop-off rates. And then we find most people either search or click on that main give button to go to the annual fund, which is cool. That means our big picture call to action is working. There's a couple other sites. And we can see a good number of people drop off from the first donate site. I guess that makes sense. As soon as you hit it, and you're like, oh, now I have to give money, and you jump off. A very small percentage of people search and then don't click on one of those search results. That means our search page is probably really good. Maybe we need to work on that page. So it's kind of cool. There's a million things you can do in here, of course. Google Links is really easy to set up and great. There's also, I don't have time, but I wanted to mention that you can track specific clicks. So if you have 3 buttons on your site that all kind of go to the same place, you can set up, you just do Google Analytics.track event, and you can track specific clicks on specific pages. So like, our header is really good at getting to the search page, but the footer search is not good at that.
Just if you do use events, it won't show up in these goal flow charts. So you can do something called a virtual page view. So basically, you just put a little on-click JavaScript on button, and it sends a message saying this. We basically make up a 15 page.
Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah,
was viewed, and it'll show up in the card.
Okay.
So we're going to get events just moved on the close. Which is only, I mean, if your click, like your purchase process has a thank you page, you just use the thank you page.
Yeah.
Or if you don't have a thank you page or that button on the side or something.
Yeah. Yeah, we were trying to figure out which of the give buttons are people more likely to click, because we had like the one in the header, and then we ended up getting rid of it. We had the one in the big picture, and we had the one lower. So we're trying to figure out which ones click more often, kind of thing.
Super quick, because I know you guys got to go. On the back end, admin side of things, there's a whole bunch of stuff, but I think one of the really cool things that we did is use dynamic charting. So we're using HighCharts is the name of the library. It's really cool, really easy. It loads asynchronously. It has pretty graphics. You can do drill downs. You can do mouse over stuff. The back end side of things is pretty straightforward. There's a huge API for it, so you can do a lot of really cool stuff.
Someone gave $10,000 one day.
Yeah. So the mouse over here, I can see that we have a $10,000 gift. And then the other side of things is we're doing.
Yeah, we're done.
Probably have to leave soon.
We're tracking all the transactions on the website just to see where people are failing on their credit cards. So we don't have any reasons, no consumer data here, but what we can do is we can see that credit cards are accepted or failed. And here's again one of that HighChart stuff. And so they support like it's called Detail, where you can dial down. And grab this guy right here and just let's see. You can mouse over and see. You know, we had 4 total transactions. 1 of them failed. So anyway, HighChart's really cool. Definitely go check out the website. There's tons of demos on the website.
A lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
Say hi, everybody.
Nice.